Healing is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or dramatic moments of clarity. It's quiet, almost invisible. It happens in the pauses, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Sometimes it looks like nothing is happening at all. You still wake up tired, still overthink, still feel the ache in your chest. But beneath the noise of your daily thoughts, something subtle begins to shift. Your mind becomes a little softer, your reactions a little slower. You start to see yourself, not as broken, but as becoming. Healing is not a single event, it's an unfolding, a gradual remembering of who you are beneath the pain. And though you might not notice it yet, there are signs, gentle, quiet signs, that show your soul is learning how to breathe again. At first, solitude feels like a punishment. You crave noise, company, distractions, anything to escape your own thoughts. But slowly, something begins to change. You stop fighting the silence. You start listening to it. You realize that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Loneliness is emptiness. Solitude is presence. When you heal, your solitude becomes sacred. It's where you meet yourself again, where you recharge, realign, and remember that your worth doesn't depend on who texts you back. Silence no longer feels like a void to fill. It becomes a space to be. There was a time when one word, one look, or one rejection could ruin your whole day. You would spiral, replaying the moment again and again, trying to make sense of why it hurts so much. But now, something feels different. You still notice the sting, but it fades faster. You no longer drown in emotion, you float through it. That's what growth looks like. Not the absence of pain, but the shortening of recovery time. Your nervous system learns peace. Your body stops preparing for war every time you feel misunderstood. This is emotional maturity. The ability to feel deeply without losing yourself inside the feeling. Healing teaches you that truth is not always black and white. You can miss someone and still know you're better off without them. You can love your family and still recognize their flaws. You can feel grateful and still tired, content, yet still reaching for more. You stop demanding simplicity from life. Instead, you start embracing its contradictions. You begin to understand that peace doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means being okay in the middle of it. When you can hold two opposing truths at once without collapsing, you've grown. That's balance. That's maturity. As you soften, you begin to see that healing isn't about fixing. It's about allowing emotions to rise and fall. Allowing yourself to be seen, allowing life to flow without constant control. And in this allowance, your heart opens. At some point, you stop internalizing the way people treat you. You begin to notice that their coldness, anger, or rejection often says more about their pain than your worth. When someone withdraws, criticizes, or blames, you pause, breathe, and observe. You no longer take every reaction as a reflection of your value. You understand that people project their wounds, and you no longer carry their stories as your own. This doesn't make you detached, it makes you aware. You can still care without absorbing. You can love without losing yourself. That is emotional freedom. The moment you realize you don't need to fix everyone to stay connected. When healing reaches the subconscious, your dreams start changing first. Nightmares that once repeated themselves lose intensity. You stop waking up in panic. Instead, your dreams start carrying symbols of release. Water, open doors, flights, light. Your subconscious is reorganizing. It's cleaning old pain, rewriting old memories. You wake up lighter, even if you can't explain why. Healing doesn't only transform your waking life, it transforms your inner world. Even your nights begin to heal. There was a time when you hid your anger, fear, and jealousy, as if they made you unworthy. But healing reveals that darkness isn't evil. It's just unloved light. You stop running from the parts of yourself that scare you. Instead, you invite them in. You listen. You hold them gently. You realize that your rage was asking for boundaries. Your jealousy was asking for self-worth. Your fear was asking for safety. And the moment you listen, they soften. Healing isn't about erasing your shadow, it's about learning to dance with it, to understand that your darkness also carries wisdom. There's a quiet revolution that happens when you heal. You stop pretending. You stop chasing validation. You stop shrinking to fit into places that no longer match your truth. You start speaking softly, but honestly. You start saying no without guilt and yes without fear. You no longer perform a version of yourself. You simply are. Authenticity isn't loud. It's calm. It's choosing to stand in your truth, even when it costs you comfort. And that is where freedom begins. And when all these layers begin to settle, when solitude no longer scares you, when peace no longer feels unfamiliar, you realize that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. There comes a quiet realization. Healing was never about becoming a better person. It was never about smiling through pain or staying calm when everything inside you was breaking. It was about truth, about learning to be real instead of perfect, about letting the storm move through you without pretending it's a sunny day. Healing isn't performance, it's permission. Permission to feel, to rage, to grieve, to rest, to be human, fully, unapologetically. There was a time when peace felt like boredom, when chaos felt familiar, even safe. But as healing deepens, peace stops being empty and starts being home. You no longer crave constant stimulation. You start enjoying the stillness between moments. You can sit in silence without reaching for your phone, without needing the world to fill the quiet. That's when you know. Your nervous system has remembered safety. Your soul has remembered simplicity. True forgiveness isn't about setting others free. It's about freeing yourself from the loop of replaying what happened. You realize that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means you've stopped needing revenge, stopped needing closure from someone who never understood. You no longer carry the story as your identity. You remember the lesson, but you release the weight. And one day, You wake up and realize the person you were before the pain isn't coming back. But something deeper has emerged. Someone softer, wiser, quieter. Someone who can hold joy and sadness in the same breath. Who no longer fears endings because they've seen how rebirth feels. You stop searching for meaning in external validation. You stop waiting for life to start. You understand it's been happening all along. Healing was never the destination. It was the path back home. May you remember that you are not broken. May you honour the seasons of your becoming. May you find the courage to face your shadow and the grace to love yourself through it all. Because healing isn't the end of the story, it's the art of beginning again, endlessly.